All right, before I get into today, happy Saturday, by the way, I want to address the elephant in the room. It is self-serving. I know. It's good for the ego. It looks good, kind of polishing yourself, a little glazing yourself, as the kids would say, which means I probably shouldn't say it. To say, hey, I went out in the community today and I picked up garbage. So, again, that's what I did. Pat on the back, all that stuff. What I really want to talk about today is leadership. This is a word that I kind of chafe at. I don't really like it because leadership typically means, in common vernacular, putting someone up on a pedestal, or a leader feels like they are at the front and they're doing glorious things and they're inspiring awe, and it means they have power, etc., etc. But why is that relevant to today? Well, today we had a community leader step up and inspire people to go out into our community with gloves on, with garbage bags, black, garbage bags, and get really dirty and go into the bushes and the highways and the byways and pick up all the trash that accumulates over the winter. I was in Ottawa a few days ago, as you know, and I, had to walk around the hotel to get to places to eat and stuff. And the trash there was unbelievable throughout the city of Ottawa. I don't think we're unique in that way, any real different. But what we had here is an example of Lydia. So shout out to Lydia. Lydia, for the fourth year in a row, has inspired residents of St. Stephen to not just say, somebody else should really take care of that. I pay taxes. The municipal district of St. Stephen should really take care of that. Now, I did see that the sweeper trucks are out. That's fantastic. And cleanup is generally underway. But this is leadership, seeing a need and saying, I'm going to do something about that, and I'm going to see if I can inspire people to join me in that work. And as I've said before in videos previous about leadership, leadership to me is just the person who gets to serve the most. The biggest servant is the leader. That's when leadership is happening correctly. I think we can probably think about leaders who we see who don't actually do the work. Okay, think of your least favorite politician. We all can, wherever we are on the spectrum. And you can say that person fancies themselves a leader, maybe because they found themselves in a position, but they're not getting their hands dirty. And so there's a difference between power and influence, right? And I would say the best kind of power comes from the amount of influence that you can have and how you inspire people, how you get that influence by inspiring people to follow you. So today I grabbed some gloves and a garbage bag, and hey, shout out to all the people who honked. We were allowed to go wherever we wanted to go. So that huddle that happened, the event started at 12:30. If you've never been part of Lydia's cleanup, I would say, hey, I just want to encourage you next year to show up. There's all but guaranteed to be a 5th annual. I'm happy to say that the organizers, Angela and Lydia and their family, did say that this was probably the most well attended. And so at 12:30 we gathered. There was some coordination around, here's the gloves, here's the bags, if you find some needles, here's how to pick them up, there's needle boxes, things like that. By the way, happy to report that I didn't hear any needles that were found. I certainly didn't find any. And then we were encouraged to choose a route that we are passionate about, or something like that, wherever you want to go. And I got to say, for me, oh, that's the cat that may be making noise. If you just saw that, I'm I'm house sitting / cat sitting a little bit, and we'll see if he misses his owner. So we were, and that's why I chose King Street. Because, I remember I've talked about this, I remember the first time I ever visited St. Stephen, coming off the highway and driving, and the first thing I saw, and it was January, so, midwinter. But the first thing I saw was that old KFC building, spray painted and falling apart. And I just thought, well, that's not the greatest first impression. And then, of course, now there's a DQ. And DQ will figure into this story a bit later, so stay tuned for that. So I chose King Street because I go up and down there all the time, and I do consider that kind of our first impression to the town, the downtown portion of our great and large municipal district of St. Stephen. And so I parked my car at Carmen's and started walking up the road. Shout out to all those of you who honked and waved. And picked up all the garbage all the way up to kind of the bridge, past the Jean Coutu, and turned around and came back. And that was about a bag and a half full of garbage. And hey, so if you see how sparkly clean King Street is, that was me and a couple others going up and down the street there. I do want to give a shout out to, like I said, Dairy Queen when I got to around there. A couple of the gentlemen who worked there opened the drive-through window and said, "Hey, do you need a drink?" I said, "Yeah, I'll take you up on that." Today was an absolutely gorgeous day, and shout out to them for hydrating me about halfway into my 2-hour stint of picking up garbage. So a couple of shout outs here, of course, to Lydia, and I'm glad I got to tell her, I said, thank you for being a leader. And Lydia is very humble about this, and so is her family. But I told her, a leader is someone who serves in this way. Picking up garbage is not the most glorious work, but it needs to be done. And instead of saying somebody else should take care of that, doesn't this town look X, Y, Z? Boy, I'm really ashamed and really embarrassed. You just say, yeah, maybe somebody else can get to it, but I do have the power to get to it myself. I wonder if people will help me. So this was really key. And more of us can do that. More of us can say, yeah, there's a problem in our municipality. What can we do to make it better? And of course, as the mayor in that role, I want to tackle those kinds of things in a more official way. And I'll talk more about this in future videos, the need to communicate, the need to coordinate, and then the need to cooperate together. I know those are kind of like, that's a little bit pithy, the 3 C's. But we saw this today, the communication of meeting at 12:30, all of us together, that morale boost of saying we're in this together. And I do want to, and then of course the coordinating. Here's the gloves, here's the bags, here's the sharps boxes if you find any, and then of course cooperating and working together to where to dispose of bags and things like that. That is how great things happen in our community, and that's how we serve most effectively. So I do want to give a shout out to my other mayoral candidate, Joyce, who was there and did take the time. I saw another candidate for councillor, Chandra Best, there. These are people who are willing to set aside time to serve the rest of us. And I got to say, when you are in a campaign like this, this is my second campaign. I campaigned for MLA and now for mayor. There is a sense that like any minute that you are not knocking doors or putting up signs or creating content like this, you're falling behind. You're not doing what you should be. It's just day and night you're thinking about it. And so today was a beautiful day to knock on doors. Today was a beautiful day to put up signs. But Joyce and Chandra and myself suspended our campaigning and took the time to do something for the common good of our community. You can choose to do a lot of things on a day like today, but like I say, to be there and support this family who is taking that leadership role is really key. And aside from the fact that it's a wonderful thing to do, you actually feel really, really good about that. And that's something that we can't understate, really, is when you serve in this way, putting aside your own time for the good of your neighbor, I can't think of anything more rewarding. So, I think that's something that we need to work on, is to say, yeah, you can look at a thing and say, this really needs to be done. Somebody should do that. But when somebody steps forward and says, come on, can I inspire you to help me accomplish this thing? That is leadership, and leadership is service. So again, shout out to as well the current councilors who are there. Mayor Alan McEachern was there, Ghislaine Wheaton was there, and that I really appreciate current council. Of course, some people were not available today. There's abilities, there's availability. So I want to be clear on that. You know, for example, if I had to rush off to Ottawa the way I had to do this past weekend, I wouldn't have been able to be there. Last year, I know that it poured on the day of Lydia's cleanup, and then they had to reschedule the next day, and I had a commitment that day. So obviously, if some people could not make it, then of course that's understandable. But it is a sacrifice to say, I'm not going to knock on doors. I'm not going to put up signs during this time. I am going to encourage the leadership that Lydia has shown, because sometimes, a lot of the times, I would say being a leader is following another leader. Being a servant, someone who serves the community, means following along in the work that other people who want to serve are committing to as well, and doing that together. So today was a real perfect example of really clear communication, what we're doing, of coordination, and then of cooperation and working together for, something that really, really makes a difference in a community that we love. So thank you to Lydia and her family for being that leader. As I said, thank you to my fellow candidates who are running, who suspended their campaign during that time to encourage Lydia and to serve in that way. And thank you to the current serving council and mayor for working together. And when we pitch in, wonderful things happen. All right, that is it for today. I will talk to you tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourself, take care of your neighbor, pick up a little trash if you can. I'm sure there's more out there. And let's build up St. Stephen together. BuildUpStStephen.ca. That's where you can check out more about me. See you tomorrow.